Hi, my name is Valerie DeHunt. I'm Senior Director of Language Services at Smartling, and I would like to welcome you to this session about quality of translation. So let's get started. Quality at the source means you need to think about quality at every steps of the translation process, not just when translations have been completed. So that means you need to build a strategic quality program that fits all your business objectives. So let's look at what such a quality program would include and how it would evolve over time. If your company just started on their localization journey, you're most likely still in a very reactive mode. So you start with gathering the essentials to build a solid foundation. Your team wrote a style guide to ensure your translation vendor understands your stylistic preferences. You built a glossary of all the terms that are important and specific to your brand. If you're a SmartLink customer or thinking about using our TMS, you understand that ensuring as much context is available to the translators is really, really important. You understand that query management or triage will empower translators working on your content to make the best decisions. And you have customized all your QA checks to lay down safeguards to higher quality. You have chosen workflow and translation solution mix that matches your needs and different types of content. And at this point, you probably still have somebody in your team reviewing everything that is being translated, or a lot of it. Once you reach the next level of your journey, you start thinking about quality assurance. So you want to make sure that quality is high while potentially scaling back on the internal review effort. That's when you introduce an LQA program and functional testing. The first looks at the linguistic quality of your translations, while the second checks your translation work, the translations work well in the final environment. And at this point, you start being more proactive. So you improve processes. You ensure that your budget is allocated towards what really counts. You've been collecting data through the LQA effort. So it's now time to establish metrics and KPIs. And establishing those metrics allows you to create action plans, concentrate on some languages or content types, manage and guide vendors more efficiently. But it also allows you to reduce and strategically allocate internal review time, which is, very often the bottleneck in the process. And once of all these elements are in place, now quality becomes a shared responsibility between the vendor and your team. There is a larger focus on training, both on the customer side and the vendor side. Linguistic assets are now recognized as living documents and are managed more efficiently. And machine-enhanced quality evaluation can be introduced to automate terminology harvesting and accelerate TM cleanup. As we've seen just now, an essential element of any quality program consists of measuring the quality of the translations. But how do we establish whether a quality score is good or is bad? Well, it depends. And regardless of where you are in your localization journey, I'm fairly certain that everyone listening today would agree that quality is subjective, that quality depends on the customer's preferences. Different companies have different quality standards and requirements. So just drop a note in the chat to let me know if you agree. But what if I told you that subjective also means that quality does not need to be perfect? I have a feeling there are a few raised eyebrows out there right now. Drop a note too, but hear me out. What if instead of trying to achieve that perfect translation every time, we looked at a broader picture where high quality means reaching your objectives, reaching the audience you targeted, increasing your sales in certain markets, helping your customers in their own language. Would it matter if some of your translations didn't follow the perfect, compelling style you had envisioned, if what you set out to achieve, was achieved? Probably not. So how do we get to those objectives? Well, first of all, you invest in your team, invest in training your linguists, your evaluators, your colleagues in the content owners, the content creators. Encourage collaboration between your internal team and your vendors, and evangelize the importance of source preparedness within your company. Then move on to optimizing your tools. Make sure that your content is routed properly to the different translation solutions that are available to you. Make sure that your assets are managed efficiently and are always up to date and available to your translators. Then evaluate translation output. Choose your methodology. Find the right balance of human and machine-driven tools to tell the full story. Then scale and repeat. We heard earlier Gavin discuss the importance of selecting the best translation solution mix to maximize your budget. Well, with quality evaluation, we should follow the similar principles. You should match the effort and cost of your quality evaluation program to the content. So when it's translation post-edit empty, you're probably going to want more automated solutions. And then as you move towards high importance content, you invest more. And the quality evaluation can leverage human evaluation as well as a series of automated tools. Human assessment focuses on error typologies and assigns a severity rating to each error found. Internal review means someone on your team reviews and assesses the translations to verify all preferences have been met. Automated tools rely on data analysis to make an assessment. And both tools bring something to the table. They are only showing one side of the story, though. So with time, the data-driven automated approach learns from the human input, and hopefully we can reduce reliance on the human assessment. Let's have a closer look at all of these different tools. So the human evaluation framework looks at, as I mentioned earlier, an error typology, and basically a linguist reviews all the translations, and for every single strain that is in front of them, looks at whether any of these errors appear, and they catalog that error, and then they assign a severity to that error. So let's look at what those different severities would be like. Critical is really, really something that would be so severe that it would have legal and commercial repercussions. So this is really the one that you use the least amount of time, hopefully. And then we move to major, minor, as the importance of the severity of these errors decreases. And even sometimes that we are not going to assign any weight to the error that we see, because it's subjective, it's preferential, but it's still important to log it so that we can create a feedback loop with the translators so that they are able to improve or learn from the evaluators working on the content. The next would be moving to the automated tools. And I was mentioning earlier the fact that linguistic assets management becomes really important. Well, we have automated tools that allow us to build on whatever asset exists and make them always relevant and help the translators make the best translation. So glossary, we can look at coverage analysis and term harvesting. We can improve and add terms to the glossary. Style guide, we want to review and localize the style guide every time there is a product update, every time something changes in the customer's preferences. We can use automated tools to look at the translation memory and look at edit distance, edit nature. I'll go over that in a moment. And then we can also clean up our translation memory or the glossaries automatically using some of the algorithms that we have in our arsenal. So let's talk about edit distance and edit nature. Edit distance really measures the difference in characters between what was translated first and then what somebody may have updated in a subsequent step. So in the first example, we see that from the personal is guilty, the translation was changed to the person is not guilty. 3 characters difference. Not a lot. So we would, edit distance would say, well, there was minimal change, so probably not important. But as soon as we look at edit nature, we see that it was actually introducing a negation. And in this example, it makes a pretty big difference. I'm sure everybody would agree here. And then same thing in the second example, we are adding 3 characters. Not a lot of difference in terms of edit distance, and adding punctuation in this case add a little bit more emphasis, but it is still minimum. It didn't change the meaning of the sentence by much. And then finally, in our last example, while we changed the translation with 11 characters, so a more drastic change in terms of distance, edit distance, it is actually a preferential choice, and it might make a difference or not. So by having this analysis, we are really able to see whether an editor is making important changes to the translations, or if, on the contrary, what they're introducing is of inconsequential result. Let's look at the different algorithms that we have available. One of them looks at TMX LQA. So basically, that algorithm is analyzing your TM and looks for omissions between the source and the target segment, looks at inconsistent sources. We might have the same translation for different source segments, or the opposites. We have one source but multiple targets. So by identifying those types of occurrences, we can make a decision to clean the TM. We can point out to inconsistent usage in the TM compared to the glossary. We can point out to formatting issues. So a very, very powerful tool when it comes to looking at the health of your TM. Another type of algorithm would allow us to do some automated cleanup. Next slide, please. So in this case, we're looking for duplicates, and we can remove those automatically. We can remove or retain strings where the source and the target are identical. We can remove empty strings. We can remove tags when it's appropriate, and so on and so forth. And this algorithm allows us to identify what types of errors are present, and some of them can correct it automatically with confidence. Some of them with a certain degree of confidence. So we work with the customer to decide where is the threshold. And some of them are issues that can only be fixed by a translator. So we involve the human linguist in that process. But overall, a very, very powerful tool that can accelerate TM cleanup. So linguistic asset management and TM cleanup, all of these tools allow us to get to a very, very powerful program. And some of the takeaways that I would like you to go home with are that translation quality should always be on brand and drive growth across global markets. Quality is about people, processes, and tools. And quality should be top of mind at every step of your translation process. And very, very importantly, adopting a proactive approach will save you money in the long run. That's all I have for you today. Thank you to those who were able to attend this session. And for the people who asked some questions, we will follow up with you after the conference. Thank you. Bye-bye.